Hi, this video is exam revision for Cutting Edge Intermediate Unit 3. In this unit we did grammar on comparatives and superlatives and different ways of comparing things. The vocabulary we did was features and sites and adjectives for describing places. So everything in this unit was to do with comparing and describing things. So let's look at comparatives and superlatives first. I'm going to use Dubai's skyscrapers as an example. So here are the heights of Burj Khalifa, Emirates Towers, Burj Al Arab. These sentences can work. Burj Arab is very tall. Emirates Towers are taller than Burj Al Arab. Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. So you will have seen these adjectives before, and this just looks at them. So we have tall, taller than, the tallest. So these are comparatives and superlatives. So what is a comparative? A comparative compares two things. Emirates Towers, Burj Al Arab. It's comparing the two buildings. So we can say taller than. Superlative is more than two things. For example, Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. So all the buildings in the world, or you could just compare three buildings, but as long as it's more than two, we use this form, the tallest. Now tall is a short adjective. It's only one syllable, tall, one sound. Here are some other examples: old, big, friendly. Friendly is two sounds, two syllables, but it's still short. So we still say older than, the oldest, bigger than, the biggest, friendlier than, the friendliest. But let's look when the adjectives are short, it's like this. But when they're long, crowded is not a long adjective, but it doesn't finish in Y like friendly. Boring, interesting, polluted. These are long adjectives. So we don't say like we did with taller. We say more crowded than, the most crowded. More boring than, the most boring. More interesting than, the most interesting. More polluted than, the most polluted. So this is comparatives and superlatives, and I think you've probably studied this before. Don't forget there are irregulars, of course, this is English, there's always some that don't fit the rule. We have good, bad and far, so the distance. The comparative for good is not gooder, it's better than the best. Bad, worse than or the worst. Far, further than or the furthest. So remember these, they're pretty much the only three irregular ones. And for spelling, if you're going to use them, notice that big here, we doubled the G, biggest. So when it's a short vowel, it's just one vowel on its own, A, E, I, O, O, U, we double the consonant. So it's bigger, not, well, whatever this says, Baija. Then we have friendly. If it finishes in a Y, we don't put friendlier with a Y, we put an I instead. And when the adjective ends in an E, like fine, then we keep one E. We don't put two E's for ER at the end. Finer. Moving on, let's look at some more phrases we can use with comparative adjectives. So when it's comparative, we can give a bit more information like these. A bit, a little bit, slightly, a lot, much. So you can say Emirates Towers are a bit taller than the Burj Al Arab, a small bit. But Burj Khalifa is a lot taller than Burj Al Arab. So these mean more or less the same, and these mean a lot. For superlative adjectives, we have these: by far, one of, the second, or the least. Burj Khalifa is by far the tallest building in the world. It's similar to a lot taller there, but it's It means by a long way. There's no one even close to Burj Khalifa. Burj Al Arab is one of the tallest buildings in Dubai. So it's not as tall as Burj Khalifa, but it's one of the tall ones, one of the top 20, I guess, in the city. Marina 101, which is in Dubai Marina. I don't know if it's on this picture, but it is the second tallest building in Dubai. So you can give the actual position of how tall it is. And then for least, it means the opposite of most. Jebel Ali is the least interesting part of Dubai. Okay, so try to remember these phrases just to give a bit more information when you're describing something. Now we'll do languages of features and sites. So, in the book it talked about language of the countryside, language of the city, and language of the coast. Now, this book is made in the UK, so the language it was talking about was UK, Britain's countryside. But you can still try to learn some of it. So we had a forest, a rainforest, not many of them in the UK, a hill like we have here, a lake of water, farmland where sheep and cows are, a view, a village, a waterfall. I would say a view or a lake we could also have in a city, couldn't we? Then we have the city, ancient ruins, so if there's an old part, a bridge, a canal, a cathedral, a factory, a festival, a museum, a market, a monument, a mosque, a palace, a shopping mall, a skyscraper, great word, this is what you need to describe the tall buildings in Dubai, and a temple. And again, of course, some of these could be in the countryside as well. And then we had the coast. So we had a bay, a beach, a cliff. We don't have a cliff here. A cliff is like a mountain next to the sea where it falls in suddenly. Docks, an island, a harbour. And again, some of these like docks, island, harbour, you can find in a city as well. So these are the languages of features and sites, and try to learn some of the words that you would need to describe the place where you live. If you live near the desert, you might want some words connected to there. Now we have different ways of comparing. For this, I'm going to use soft drinks as an example. Pepsi is as tasty as Coca-Cola. Some people might agree, some people might not. But when we use as, this is a phrase we use for comparing. And here we have some others. Take a quick look and then I will give the meanings. So as tasty as means the same taste. Diet Coke, not as tasty, is not the same. So this as, you put the adjective between. Now here we have less and fewer. It means the opposite of more. So Coca-Cola is less healthy than Diet Coca-Cola. It's an adjective, healthy. When it's an uncountable noun, so we can't count sugar, it's too small to count, we say less sugar. There's less sugar in Diet Coca-Cola than Coca-Cola. But when we can count it, like calories, you count calories, we say fewer. There are fewer calories in Diet Coca-Cola. So when it's countable and uncountable, if you remember this, we use less and fewer. Two orange drinks here now. I only have a picture of Fanta. Mirinda is very similar to Fanta. About the same as Fanta. This is what it just means. It means not the same, but almost the same. But when it is exactly no difference, we say a bottle of Coca-Cola tastes exactly the same as a can of Coca-Cola. In theory, but I think some people think differently. When there's a small difference, you could say this: Coke Zero is slightly different from Diet Coke. Coke Zero is a bit different from Diet Coke. But when there is a big difference, we say this: Mountain Dew is completely different from Coca-Cola. Okay, so learn these phrases so that you can use them to describe ways of comparing. And then we had adjectives for describing places. So here we have 4 types of cities, and there were 16 adjectives, I think, no, 20, and we'll go through them quickly. Arty, colourful, cosmopolitan, crowded, dangerous. Crowded and cosmopolitan, you could say, is in this picture. Dirty, expensive, friendly, historic, industrial. So I would say this second picture is historic because it's got some old buildings. Could also be expensive too. Lively, modern, old-fashioned, peaceful, polluted. This picture of Dubai with the metro and the skyscrapers is modern. And then we had poor, romantic, smart, spectacular, and touristy. And this, although one of the most romantic places on earth, you could say is Paris. So make sure you know these words, how to pronounce them, how to spell them, and what they all mean. This was in the book. Okay, so just to recap, in this unit we did grammar of comparatives and superlatives and the different ways to compare. And the vocabulary we did was features and sites and adjectives for describing places. Good luck with your revision.